Hi, I'm Caitlin Jenkins, the family law vlogger. This vlog is one of a series of vlogs arising out of the COVID-19 situation, and this vlog today focuses on the question of people who have signed premarital agreements in anticipation of a wedding, but whose wedding has been postponed or cancelled, and they're wondering what they should do. Now, unfortunately, this situation is something we're coming across quite a lot at Mills & Reeve across our 6 offices. So premarital agreements themselves are much more common. People are often entering into premarital agreements, or prenups as they're colloquially known, before they get married. They're much more common. They are now, to use the old-fashioned phrase, worth the paper they're written on. And so often people are signing up to prenups before wedding days. Usually they're signed no less than 28 days before a wedding date, and often no more than around 12 months before a wedding date. And quite often they refer to a specific wedding date in the agreement. So what happens if you've signed such an agreement and your wedding has now been postponed because it's finding difficult for weddings to go ahead at the moment? Well, I think one of the things to think about is to look at exactly what your existing premarital agreement says. So if it just says, for example, that your wedding is going to take place within the next 12 months, and it doesn't refer to a specific date, and you move the date from, say, a date at the beginning of July to a date in October, then you may not need to do anything else apart from stick with your existing premarital agreement and just have your wedding again in the autumn. If, having checked your premarital agreement, it actually refers to a wedding date on a particular date, so for example you're getting married on the 4th of July 2020 and that wedding is no longer going ahead, then you may need some further advice about what you should do. If you've refixed the date already for the wedding, it may be that your solicitor will advise you to have a very short supplemental agreement signed not less than 28 days before the refixed date to reiterate the terms of the agreement that you've already signed. Or it may be that your solicitor will say, well, if it's fixed, the new date is fixed for a long way off, say in 12 months or perhaps even longer, then you might need to revisit the terms of the signed agreement a bit closer to the time, just to check, first of all, that that date is still viable and is still going ahead, and also to check whether there's been anything substantive that's changed, for example, in your financial circumstances, which means that you should revisit the terms of the agreement. So I think if you've got a date fixed further in the future, or you haven't got a date yet, what you need to do is to keep an eye on the situation, and perhaps 6 months minimum before the new date that you fix, revisit the terms of your agreement with your advisor and either decide to stick with it and just have a short supplemental agreement to confirm the terms of the original agreement as something you both want to stick to, or have a slightly revised agreement if your financial circumstances have changed in the meantime. Other things to think about in this intervening period if weddings have been postponed is if people are now living together, cohabiting, when they previously weren't, then you might want to think about a cohabitation agreement in the interim. So say your wedding was postponed from July this year to September 2021, but you've decided you're going to move in together. You might want to have a cohabitation agreement that sort of regulates the arrangements between you between now and then, and that's something you should speak to a solicitor about. Those are then therefore the key points if you've already signed a prenuptial agreement but your wedding has been postponed. As always with the Family Law Vlog, this is just general information and thoughts for you to be thinking about. You should take specific advice on your specific circumstances from a family lawyer who specialises in these issues, and my details and those of the Mills & Reeve family and children team are at the end of this vlog.